So do you find with alcohol as a person, were you angry? Did you have anger in you? And did the alcohol just make it worse?
Yes, so I suppose, without going into too much detail, I experienced violence at a young age.
Okay.
And all the way through my sort of, my youth, if you want.
Yes.
So with being shy, I found it very hard to assert myself.
Yes.
So there was that frustration that sort of bubbled up a wee bit at times.
Yeah.
When I got a couple of drinks in me, I thought I was King Kong.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, it was just something that it just became a normal thing.
Yeah.
And it cost me an awful lot as well. It cost me an awful lot. I got drink in me, and I never knew when to stop either. So whenever I started drinking, I just couldn't stop. My feet were nailed to the floor.
Yeah.
And then the subsequent behaviour would have then came. I would have been chasing people's wives. I would have been,
Yes.
drinking, and then obviously drugs would have come into that as well. And there's a side of that as well where I look at that going, you never know which one would have tipped me over the edge. And when I ended up I had to leave Northern Ireland at a particular stage as well. I think I was asked to leave.
Okay.
We'll not go into too much detail around that, but I was asked to leave, but told that this was something that had to happen. I jumped on a plane, went to Tenerife for 3 weeks, 3-week holiday, but decided to stay over there.
Oh.
But I made a decision to stay over there.
Yeah.
Now I'll go back a wee bit as well, because I missed out a wee stage of my story where I got the message of recovery, and I don't want to miss that, Brenda, because for me, when I was dishonourably discharged from the military, I then subsequently ended up in prison, in an English prison in London, in a place called Reading Prison. I think it's now closed. And I then, went up to a place called Coventry, a place called Onley, Young Offender Centre. And while I was in there, they didn't ask me, they told me that I had to go to meetings of a 12-step recovery group.
Oh.
Because my offence was committed under the influence of alcohol.
And sorry, what age were you at this stage?
I went into prison at around 18, 19, thereabouts.
So, were you put in prison because of the behaviour under alcohol?
I went out one night with 3 or 4 friends, and we get into a fight. And we sort of went through a bit of a rampage through an English town, just below. It's in the Surrey area, put it like that. And we were arrested for violent disorder. There was 4 of us, 3 soldiers and a civilian. And we ended up, I was remanded in custody because I had a couple of previous violent offences, you know, and that was, so I was remanded in custody, went straight to Reading Prison, and then came out on remand, or on bail if you want, and then obviously on the 2nd of February, I was incarcerated. Well, they gave me a year. Now, we pleaded guilty and that sort of thing, so I got a year and ended up doing 6 months.
Okay. And so in that 6 months, you obviously weren't able to drink?
No, I did try and make alcohol.
Did you?
I did, you had to. You know, I'd heard that you could make it. I'm not gonna promote it on a podcast, but I will say this, that, somebody had told me that if I put certain things together and put it in a certain place, then, all I got was a sugar high. It didn't work. It didn't work. You know what I mean? It didn't work.
From watching the programs, what is it? Fruit? It goes fruit. Anyway, listen.
Fructose, yes.
So as a young 18-year-old, and then you're put in prison. Now, at that time, so was there any shame? Did you think at that time, I'm an alcoholic, I'm out of control?
I had no preconception of what an alcoholic was.
Okay.
I know people out there maybe say about, the anorak and the bottle away lying in a certain street in Belfast City Centre. For me, I didn't even, alcohol was alien to me. I didn't know even, because alcohol was always encouraged.
Yes.
Where I come from, it was never something that was taboo, or you should drink it properly. It was always like, get as much of it in as you possibly can. So whenever I was in the prison in Only, they said to me that I had to go to these 12-step recovery groups, which
Okay.
I did. And to be honest with you, Brenda, I would have went and done
Yeah.
ballet if it got me out of a cell.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. I'd have went anywhere. With the gym and
Brilliant.
ballet and gymnastics,
Yeah,
you know, I would have done it. I would have worn leg round all day. I
Yeah.
would have done it to get out of a cell. But when I went there was a couple of things that I remember distinctly about it. The room was packed,
Okay.
and I thought I was going on my own.
Right.
Right? Nobody told me I was going to sit
Yeah,
in this
uh-huh.
group. You know, they didn't say the name. It was a 12-step recovery group or anything. Like, I
Okay.
don't remember anything like that
Yeah.
at all. But there was the two guys on the top table were getting on in years, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them said that he used to drink to get drunk. And that was my first identification. Because I
Yes.
never seen it. Even today, I still don't. So why would you drink alcohol and not
Not
want
want
to
to
get
get
drunk?
drunk. Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. My
Yeah.
wife, you know, will have a couple of glasses of wine and can go home and doesn't bother.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to me. Still to this day,
Yeah.
regardless of how long I'm
Yeah,
away
yeah.
from it, you know. Why would you have 2 glasses of wine and go home?
Exactly. So, as an 18-year-old, you were on the liquor, it was party time, and you didn't come home.
No.
No.
Many times I was out all weekend, 3-4 days at a time. Now there was also, you know, other substances involved in that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would be in recovery from that as well.
Okay.
You know.
And what about the blackouts? You know, so when you woke up the next day and you didn't remember anything, did you just think that's what happens?
Yeah.
This is what alcohol does? I
was
didn't
a-
remember
it
anything.
was- I heard Robin Williams describe it as sleepwalking with activities, and that just makes
Yeah,
a lot of sense.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me. You know, I would have blacked out. That would have been a normal thing. You would have heard more of what you'd done by
Yes.
people, and as scary as that was, and I could curl your toes with some of the places where I woke up,
Okay.
some of the things that I was doing when I
Yeah,
woke up
yeah.
as well, and had no recollection. You know, of how I met some of these people, what I
Yeah.
was doing, how I even got to some of these places in London and places.
Isn't it funny that you black out and the next day everybody says to you, oh, you did that and you did that, but you're right. People don't shun it. People think it's funny.
think it's
or
hilarious.
people, and you're going, that's really not funny. So take us now to the depths of despair.
Ooh.
Tell me
Do you have
if
to?
anyone is listening. So if someone thinks, am I an alcoholic? You know, where does it take you to enter the rooms of AA, or to go to your doctor, or to go to your GP, or what exactly happened to you to eventually?
So it's a bit of a shameful story, and it's hard in the sense for people maybe to hear it. For me,
Okay.
it's life, and this is what
Yes.
happened, and this is the way it was. So for probably the best part, so I was removed from Northern Ireland, as I was saying. I was
Yeah.
kicked out, ended up in Tenerife. The lifestyle over there suited me completely. Bars
course.
open 24/7 over here.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, so what happened to me was I was drinking every day, and my tolerance just built up and built up. I was drink driving, I was doing,
Yeah.
you know, and all the behaviours that goes along with that. You know, what brought me to the 12-step recovery program was that I had fell asleep with my son. My son, who today is going to be 21 in December coming.
Okay.
At this time, he was only about one and a half.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that's quite a bit of time away before. So I went and picked him up in a wee, I keep saying the Spanish words, the infantile place. It's
right.
like a nursery,
Yeah, yeah,
nursery.
yeah.
So I went to pick him up. I drunk drove back
Mm-hmm.
with him in the car back to my apartment. I had went in, fell asleep, and when I woke up, he was out walking about the complex. He had got out of the complex and was walking about. Now we had a pool in our complex. Now all the complexes have pools.
Yes.
You know, and that being,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't affluent or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know. But there was a guy come in and he grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and he hit me a big slap in the face. And he says, "You going to get up and look after your son?" And my answer was no, I'm not. I didn't care about anything or anybody, including myself, including a 1.5-year-old. That was where alcohol took me. When I came round and realised what I had done, Brenda, I can't describe. The only way I've ever I've read a number of books about, you know, trauma and troubles and this sort of thing, and the best description I can give you of how I felt was that there was a particular community that would have give soldiers flasks of tea with grated glass in it, and they would have drank it, and didn't realise obviously that cut
Yeah.
through their insides in their tummy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as close as I can get to how I felt when I woke up and realised what I had done. That weekend I had disappeared, and some of that weekend's a blur. On the Monday I had walked into a bar. I had taken 2 drinks. One vodka I downed, didn't even touch the sides. Second one I half finished, was going down to swim, jump into the sea and try and swim the Gran Canaria. And I was never going to make it to Gran Canaria. Absolutely not. It just wasn't going to happen. I was going to die and there was going to be fish food. That's the state of mind I was in. Thankfully, I had the number of a 12-step recovery group. I picked it up and used it. The girl who answered the phone to me was a previous next door neighbour, and she knew me and I knew her by the grace of God, or just in
Wow.
a serendipity
Wow,
night
yeah.
in Tenerife. This was
Yeah.
a Scottish girl. We're still friends to this day. I was on the phone to her on my 18th anniversary. She was talking. It brings me
Amazing.
back right to
Yeah.
that moment, but you know, that's the sort of side of it. I then went down to the house, picked up the car and drunk drove over to Los Cristianos, where my first meeting of the 12-step recovery. I walked in, I was crying.
Yeah.
I remember taking my sunglasses off, wanted the sun to hurt me. I remember thinking, you know, one half turn of the wheel, I would have went into a bus. I wouldn't have to go and admit that I had a problem with alcohol. Me, admit that I had a problem. Big, strong me, you know.
Yeah.
Scurry. Walked into the rooms and there was a guy setting the room up, and he just come over and he put his arm around me. He was the nicest guy in the world. And he just said, "Come on in, sit down, son." He says, "All you have to do is listen."
Oh.
And I sat down and I was crying. I had a polo shirt on. It was probably about half a size I am now. And I had it was like snails had been running up and down my t-shirt because I'd been blowing my nose, and it was just, you know, snotters everywhere. It was a terrible state, That meeting, I remember it being bunged. I remember there was an awful lot of sort of elderly fellas in there as well. I remember thinking the top of their heads was like a wee tray of eggs. You know, that's what and it's funny how your mind goes to that. But the guy who spoke that night was a former football hooligan.
Okay.
He was a former, he had done everything that I had done under the influence. When he spoke and told his story, something I had never heard, I couldn't believe the identification I had.
Yeah.
I could not believe it.
Yeah.
So to cut to the chase, for me, Brenda, it was very much the subsequent behaviour. I think there was more drinking in me, but it was my behaviour. Once I drank, I changed. I was a different person. I wasn't the person that you meet today. I was nasty and horrible and philanderer and violent and verbally abusive, and you know, I just became this animal. That when I talk about that to my wife, who's never seen me drinking, she doesn't recognise that person.
Yeah.
She did meet an ex-partner of mine who said, you don't want to meet that guy? You know, and I may laugh at that today, and yes, I do laugh. I have to laugh at it. You know, I can't sort of beat myself up all the time about it, but I will say that, you know, there's an awful lot of shameful behaviour when prior to me coming into recovery. I have to say that out loud. You know, I have to take responsibility for what I done, how I done it. You know, my ex-partner, the wee lad's mommy, you know, we're still in touch.
Yes.
But you know, she doesn't remember, you know, the stuff as maybe as happily as I might.
Yes. and funny, the person on the other side of the addict, you know, I once heard the people living with the addicts are nearly as sick as the addict. Have you ever heard that?
Well, yes, well, it's a family disease. It's a family disease. They can't help but be impacted by it.
Yeah.
You need support. You know, even today when I work with professionals, even, you know, there's always somebody somewhere that is there supporting them in their corner, helping them, supporting them, rescuing them, which is a bit of a negative behaviour. That sort of stuff happens.
Yeah.
But there is always somebody impacted, whether it's children. You know, when I worked in the prisons as an addiction caseworker, alcohol, you know, your kids was not enough to get you off drink.
No.
It just wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing. You had to make the decision for you solely.
Yeah.
For that to then become something that was, you know, you were going to get any length of time in recovery.
And you said there, addiction's a family illness. What does addiction mean to you? So I always didn't understand. Why can Jimmy drink all that and Johnny can't? Is it, you know, why does one person become addicted and the other person doesn't? And there are people who can drink a hell of a lot, but they're not addicted.
Yeah, hard. It's,
you know,
yeah.
But so how would you, as an addiction coach and a recovery coach, what would you say? What would you advise someone who thinks they're addicted, or even or family members who are trying to get someone?
Well, the opposite to addiction is connection. If it's costing you more than money,
Okay.
and I mean that in terms of family, in terms of jobs, in terms of driving licenses, contact with your kids, it's costing you a lot of arguments. You're getting money off people you're spending more than you can afford. It's costing you like that there.
Yeah.
Then there's certainly an issue there. I'm
Yeah.
not here as a recovery coach. I don't diagnose anybody.
Yes.
And I have to be clear about that.
Yes.
But if somebody comes to me with a problem with that sort of concerns and issues, then I can talk them through it, and I could guide them to somewhere that could diagnose them if that was something they wanted to pursue. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, 100%. But it's always just we're talking about breaking stigma, and I remember when my sister was trying to get well, but I remember somebody shouting at me saying, just get her to stop drinking.
That's really hard to hear at times. It's not the person, the addict, the alcoholic, the person that has an issue or a substance use disorder, as it's known today.
Yeah.
They need to make the decision for themselves. They need to make that decision. They have to, if you phone a recovery centre for someone, they will ask to speak to the addict or alcoholic.
Yeah.
They do not want to talk to anybody else bar the person who wants to help.
Yeah.
Because that's a very fundamental key point, that if you want the support and the help, you have to go and ask for it. You have to go and get it. And it's really difficult. People don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
People don't want to admit they've got a problem with alcohol and drink. I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, I was suicidal, issues with sex,
everything.
You name it. It was just all part of it. Even today, my missus will say to me about if I get a t-shirt, if I see a t-shirt, there's a thing that I'm watching at the minute called SEAL Team, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And some of the t-shirts that they're wearing, I want to buy them. But once I get that in my head, I've got to get the t-shirt, gotta get the t-shirt. So that's my new addiction, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, but the thing about it is that, I don't know about normal people, if you want to use that term.
Yes. I don't like that term either. Me either.
But just to illustrate what I mean.
Yeah.
For me, it was in the mind.
Yeah.
I continually just thought about, all I would wanted to do was get a drink. I would have, argued with my ex-partner over nothing to get out for a drink.
Yeah.
That drink was more important to me. I would have defended alcohol.
Yeah.
I would have defended the people in the bars. Now, just for the record, I'm still waiting in the bars to call me. I haven't had a single phone call from a bar saying, where are you? What's happening? Why have you not called in to see us?
Yeah.
Not they, that's never happened, and I'm being flippant, obviously, and funny with that.
No. And tell me, has recovery been easy?
No, it hasn't.
No.
It's not easy, but it's well worth it.
Okay.
For me, the first couple of years for me, Brenda, were hell on earth.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is I made the decision that I was not going to go back to that lifestyle. As a matter of fact, I couldn't. It was costing me too much.
Yeah.
Pain, emotional pain, hurt, the people I was hurting, it nearly took my life.
Yeah.
So that was just something that was there that I never wanted to go back to, and the pain and you can't describe it. It was so sore. But the other side of that was when I came in, I was raw. I was the first couple of years. The people in the 12-step recovery rooms loved me when I was unlovable.
Oh,
and tolerated me when I was intolerable.
Oh.
And that, I remember that. See the people in that Los Cristianos group?
Yes.
They will forever be legends in my world, because I'll give you an example. PG, I suppose, as well. There was a guy in the rooms one night was sharing his story. He was from Wales. And I believe he was a minister or a priest, or he was a religious guy.
Yeah.
Growing up where I grew up, these particular ministers had, a connotation attached to them, as far as I was concerned. My perception, not true, obviously.
Yes.
But I told them exactly what I thought of them in the rooms, and a guy actually pulled me to the side after the room, grabbed me with the neck, and he says, "Who the do you think you are?" And that was my learning, and I never really understood the diversity within the rooms, because addiction doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter why you've got squillions in the bank or you're, lying on a street in Belfast. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Addiction does not discriminate. It happens to all the different. And I've seen that. I've seen in the rooms there's soldiers, there's police officers, there's judges. There's working class guys, girls.
Yeah.
It just doesn't discriminate. So it's.
And funny, it brings me back to even when I'm coaching, and when I'm even coaching young people, I always say, because I've been doing it for so long, and I'll say to the mums, maybe that they come with a teen or a young person, I say there's only one requirement for this young person to change, and that is the willingness to want it.
Yeah, 100%.
You need to want to change.
They vote for their. I say, particularly my recoveries, as I call them, my coaching clients.
Yeah.
They vote with their feet. If they're turning up and they're coming to meet me, then that's the best that I can ask.
And I've just got goosebumps.
Love it.
But if you're turning up, if you want to change, and you know in your heart there's a better life out there for you, and addiction is horrible. It's hard. It's horrible for the person, and it's horrible for those around them.
Can I say this here, Brenda? You said something that just sparked something off of me. When I first came into recovery, right, I struggled with the term alcoholic and addict. I really struggled with that, and really struggled to tell people that.
Yeah.
However, whenever I grew a set and decided to start telling people, because I get fed up telling people that I'm on medication, I'm not drinking because of this, or I'm making up all these excuses. What I done was, as I started telling people, I said, people would have said, "Do you want a wee drink?" I was like, "No, mate, I'm an alcoholic." And you would have had people look at you like, "Oh my God, you've got horns on there."
Yeah.
But the thing about it was, is people who knew me around me, they all knew I was alcoholic before I did.
Yes.
And I thought that was brand new information to me.
Right.
I couldn't work that out. I was saying to some people who I didn't know, people who didn't know, friends of mine, I'm an alcoholic now. Yeah, I know. They knew before I did. Because
one of the biggest things is denial, isn't it?
Denial.
It makes you think you're not it. It makes you think you don't have it. It makes because and it comes across all of the addictions. It's, what do you call them? My bookie book has written 48 addictions.
Yes,
my menopause brain. Russell. And if you look at the 48 addictions, and they all, and my daddy's a long-term counsellor, but he always said everybody's a bit of a something addiction in them. However, if it's harming others and yourself in a catastrophic way,
it's costing you more than money.
It's costing you more than money. So, anybody listening tonight, what would be your golden nugget of advice?
Ooh, I don't tend to give advice now. I would suggest a couple of things.
Okay, we'll go for suggestion.
I would suggest to people. What I would say, if you are struggling and addiction, whether it be tablets, which is a big thing at the minute, pure cocaine is a big thing at the minute, alcohol has always been and probably always will be. It's very socially acceptable. I would say, put the ego in the pocket, and I've said this many times, and reach out for help. Speak to someone, whether that's your doctor, someone that you can trust and that cares for you, a coach such as myself, Brenda.
Yeah.
Reach out. We will point you in the right direction. There is help there. Now, currently I work in that field as well. I'm not going into what I do and how I do it, but I work in that field, and there are people out there, very, very skilled, empathetic people who can and will help you.
Yeah. And it's funny.
But you've got to ask for it.
I'm looking at your business card here, Recovery and Resilience Coach. And it's, I remember I got to the age of 45 and I had a complete meltdown. And I remember thinking, I was never taught how to cope with myself or my emotions, and the word resilience now, it's quite a big word, and society use it and all of the rest, which is why I coach kids, as you know, because I'm trying to teach them all of the tools early on. But I haven't drank in like 5 years now, but I remember in my highest stressful days, all I wanted to do when I got home from work was take a glass of wine. And I thought that glass of wine, it just stopped me thinking. And it eased the pain and the emotional pain. Where now I can deal with everything all by myself. But actually, I feel better I feel great going, I can deal with that. I can deal with it. And now I've learned in my life, everything's fixable. Everything's figure-outable. But
Figure-outable. Love
Figure-outable,
that. I
do you
love
love
that.
that?
I love that. Figure-outable.
everything's figure-outable.
Everything's figure. That's going to be my new term
you
now.
love it?
Figure-outable. Love it. Love it.
Because it is.
It is. It can
And
be.
it's just, and you said the word, it's connection. My pride got in the way. My ego got in the way. I used to think I had to solve everything by myself, which I never did. So now I go, oh, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. This is the problem in front of me. Now, how can I solve it?
For me, I have a number of tools around me. I am someone who would consider themselves very spiritual. I would meditate and pray.
Yay.
You know, I use the term God, but I use that not flippantly, but I don't use it in the sense of Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or anything like that.
Yes.
I just use that because everybody else does.
Yes.
But I do believe in a higher power today.
Yeah.
You know, I love meditation, visualization. I love journaling.
Oh,
I love crystals.
love it.
I love crystals.
I
You know,
love it.
my wife's into crystals as well.
Amazing.
You know,
Yeah.
But the other side of that is one of the key components to my recovery as well today, and even has been, is outdoors. I love cycling.
Yes.
I love, you know, running and walking.
Yeah.
You know, recently I was in, I celebrated by going up Mount Snowdon.
How beautiful.
Before that I was in the Cooley Mountains. I've done half Ironman triathlons. I've done mountain half marathons. You know, today I love the mountain bike. I have a road bike. I love all that stuff. That stuff that really getting out, you know, putting the podcast on or a wee dander. I've got myself some sticks. I love the mountains. I feel closer to, when I get into nature, there's just, my heart sings for it. Do you know what I mean? It really does. And I've also encouraged people who I have coached, people who I have sponsored within the fellowships. I've always encouraged them to get outdoors and speak to somebody. You know, men particularly, I don't know if you know this, Brenda, but men don't talk face to face. Men talk from side to side, shoulder to shoulder, as I've heard many times. Game of pool, a wee dander.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a professional youth worker, qualified youth worker as well. When I was working with young men, particularly young males, you know, with issues and concerns, I would have took them for a long drive because I'm not looking at them directly. If you put them in a one-to-one room,
I love it.
if you put them in a one-to-one room and they're looking at you, they're like, no, you know.
Yeah.
But if you put them in the car and you just, you know, a couple of tunes on and get the elbow out and get a bit of, you know, and you can waffle away. Same with mountain biking. I used to take, went over to the likes of Shaw's Bridge here in Belfast, and I would have took groups of young people, young men, mountain biking, and I would have been cycling alongside them. And some of the best work I've ever done has been on a mountain bike. Yeah. Talking to them like that, because you're not looking directly at them. Yeah. You're listening to what they're saying, and they're listening to you, and
it's you're right, it's nature, but your energy is infectious. You know, you can. So, the joy that you have for life,
love it.
And I'm going to say this one thing. Again, I keep bringing when my sister passed. Now, I was her carer before she passed, so I spent years trying to get her well, blah, 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 and that's okay. But I finally realised I'm still alive. I've got a life to live. And it's nearly like her passing gave me the absolute energy. And then I kind of went, no, what's it about? I'm here. I matter. My life matters. You got one life.
I recently done, I was telling you just before the podcast as well, I done an event there called Aspire to Inspire in the Spectrum Centre in the Shankill Road. And myself and a friend were speaking just about our stories and stuff like that. And I was telling the crowd, and this seemed to go down really well, and this sort of illustrated recovery to me. Yeah. So I'll share it if you don't mind,
No.
Brenda. Because the way I always seen recovery, it was explained to me that whenever you come into recovery, if you imagine you come in on a cold night, got a lovely coal fire and it's just glowing red, and you take one piece of black coal, you set it in the middle of that fire without burning yourself. Yeah. After a while, it stays black for a wee while, but after a while it begins to glow. And that's a great analogy for me for recovery. Because when I came in, I was like the black piece of coal, I was the black sheep, you know, and then I came in and started to learn and ask questions and hear other people's story talking about all this stuff. And I found myself in that environment. You know, I had to immerse myself, I had to get into the middle of the bed, so to speak, to have recovery, to pick up the tricks and tips to allow me to remain sober and clean.
beautiful.
You know, and that's probably the best way to describe
Thank
it.
God for that.
Thank God it's right.
Thank God for
I would
that.
not be here.
And it's, you know, it's people like you. Thank you for your story.
No,
Thank
you're
you for
welcome.
sharing with us tonight. It is Mental Health Week, and what a better guest I couldn't have asked for. If anyone is struggling with addiction or anything mental health, please reach out. I'm here. Darren's here. I'm going to share Darren's details. Again, he's a recovery and resilience coach. I'm a mindfulness and meditation coach. And these things to me are just tools. And none of us have been taught them at school, which is why I believe then we don't have coping techniques. And I think every person needs to learn their own coping techniques, their own emotional resilience.
Big part of my work. Big part of my work is learning, teaching people that, and allowing them to understand it as well, and giving them real life scenarios of where they can use it.
And that even things like, you know, and it's, when you're in your blind spot and you don't know you've your anchor, like you were in a blind spot, didn't know you were an alcoholic, but everybody else could see it. But it's just going, I have anger today. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. Now, how can I deal with that anger in this moment? And what's a healthy way?
Constructive, good,
Yes.
positive.
And for me, I'm a bit like you. It's like an addiction. I have to get outside every day. I have to get out for a walk. And I go swimming every day.
Brilliant.
And it's, again, it's a healthy addiction, but it's nearly, I go to the pool, it's 30 minutes, that's just for me, time for me, space, clarity. Okay, I meditate every day because I love it, but again, I get the stillness within. The world's very noisy, the world's very busy, people are always there, things will always go wrong, but if you reach out and if you speak to the right people and you have the right people around you, you can figure out anything. So I'm going to leave you with, everything is figure outable.
Everything's figure outable.
Everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
Look at this beautiful logo. And this Darren's details I will be putting up, but you can contact me and I can put you in the right direction. Have a great day, evening, wherever you are. Thank you for listening. And it's okay not to be okay. You're always stronger when you get out the other side. And like the piece of black coal in the fire, just keep glowing. Come into the glow. Stay in the light.
Stay in the light.
And there's always somebody to help you. Just reach out and talk. Bye, everybody. See you later. Thanks for joining. Bye.